Hello and welcome to Finance Conversation. This is the 49th episode of the Merging Life and Money Show, and I am super excited to be here today. For those of you who do not know me, I am your host, Marie-Jo César. I help professional women bridge the gap between life and money by acquiring and applying the relevant financial skills and knowledge they need to properly take control of their money, manage their finances, and understand that they can live their best life with the money they have. Thank you for joining in today. If you are watching the replay, make sure to type #replay in the chat and leave me some comments and questions. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. I come to you live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to share valuable information about how to achieve financial wellness and live your life with means and meaning. Today, I will be exploring part 2 of my Meaning of Money for Each Generations series, and I will be talking about the money habits of Generation X. So grab a pen and a notebook, as you might want to take some notes to share with family members, friends, colleagues, whoever you want to, because it is about sharing values that you could benefit, that could benefit others. So if you have any question whatsoever, make sure to type them in the chat. And if you want to talk to me directly, I will share my contact information later on in the show. So as you may know, the main objective of the Merging Life and Money Show, and my very, very strong why, is to empower as many women as I can with what I know about money and finance so that they can live their best life yet. So I work with professionals between the ages of 35 and 60 plus, and it is important for me to gain a deep understanding of my niche market so that I can serve them successfully. So today, I will be concentrating on Generation X, and I will be focusing on the following 3 points. Who are they? What is Generation X? Their main financial pressures and their attitude towards money. So let's take a look at who they are. They are the children of the baby boomers. Okay, they are born between the years 1965 and 1980. They are between the ages of 42 and 57. And basically, they follow the well-known baby boomer generation and precede the millennial generation. So this generation has fewer members than either of these two groups, right? They are the smallest generations in modern US history, which is one of the reasons that Generation X has always been considered to be the forgotten or the overlooked generation. Big mistake. So to better understand how Gen Xs are impacting the world, we must first appreciate the global event that shaped their view of the world. So Gen Xs grew up in a time when there were more dual income families, there were more single parent households, and there were more children of divorce than when baby boomers were growing up. Okay, as a result, many Gen Xers were latchkey kids, right, who came back from school to an empty house because both baby boomer parents were working. They spent part of the day without adult supervision, and to take care of themselves, fill their time. And so they have to take care of themselves and fill the time until their parents came home. So as a result, they are known to be very, very independent. So when they were children, I would say under 10, they witnessed their US family members wounded physically and mentally during the Vietnam War, a conflict that dragged, I believe, until about 1975. They also witnessed how major world events impacted their everyday lives, like in the 1993, I should say the 1973 oil crisis and the 1979 energy crisis. So by the time Gen Xers entered their teens, the drug problem, I should say the illegal drug trade, was rampant in the US, sparking the official war on drugs that raged throughout the 1980s. Finally, in their 20s, Gen Xers experienced other major global events such as the fall of the Berlin Wall, the disintegration of the USSR or Soviet Union, and the end of the Cold War, which actually started even before they were born. So during that time, they also experienced very, very shaky economic times. They had their own point of trauma. That's all I can say. Okay, whether it's be the recessions or being latchkey kids, as I mentioned, who were left in front of a television, or the fact that they were unable to get the kind of jobs and career paths that their parents enjoyed because the economy had run out of steam. Gen Xers saw their parents get laid off and all kind of benefits got cut off, so much so that they are very skeptical of whether or not even Social Security will provide for them when they retire. And they even wonder if Social Security is still going to be around when they retire. So there's a lot going on with that generation because of what they experienced while they were growing up. They were raised in the shadow of economic downturn and have also been shaped by three recessions, as I mentioned. Okay, so we had the dot-com bubble in the late 90s, and we had the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, which shaped what do I want to say? The financial crisis actually happened when they were starting to get jobs, right? So this happened during their prime income earning years, and of late, of course, the pandemic, right? So Gen X's formative years were filled with events that challenged their ethic, made them feel powerless and insecure, and proved to them that the world could change instantly and without warning. As Gen Xers enters early adulthood, computers started entering the homes and the offices, marking the beginning of the computer age. So they grew up witnessing the development of personal computing, and at the time, personal computers was almost unheard of. And they were, and even devices like cell phones, and very few people had them. I remember that, and basically that's how they used to say they were bleeding. They were the bleeding edge of technology. All right, so this new technology, alongside the beginning of the internet, opened new horizons for them, and eventually they became comfortable with using personal electronic devices like computers and smartphones. And while they are not digital natives like the Gen Z, who always had a device, an electronic device in their hand, most Gen Xers can still grasp today's technology quickly. I must also add that they were also responsible for the building of the dot-com bubble in the late 90s, and which bubble they witnessed its bursting eventually. So as they are becoming matured adults, right, they are entering a time of life where they will be more influential than ever before, okay? Whilst they are the shadow generation between the boomers and the millennial, statistics show that they hold 51% of leadership roles globally. Okay, now, so over the next decade, Gen Xers will begin taking over the leadership reins across all levels of government, as well as throughout the financial world, right? Because they will be taken over from the retiring baby boomers, right? So by the 2030s, basically, their influence on the world stage will reach its peak, and the legacy they will leave behind will change the world forever. Now, let's take a look at the second point, which is what are Gen X's main financial pressures? Having explained to you what they went through from little to now adults in their 50s. Okay, so study after study reveal that the stress Generation X is experiencing is mainly due to the pressures on their personal finances, right? And the question is why? So as mentioned in part one a few weeks ago, Gen Xers are caught between raising their own kids and providing care for aging parents. So they are the new, what they call sandwich generation, likely to have a parent age 65 or older and also supporting a kid or two, okay? Because remember, it was all this economic turmoil, so a lot of them held back from having kids early. So now they're finding themselves with young kids, young adults, as well as aging parents that they have to support through their retirement. In addition to caregiving challenges, this generation has significant debt and job insecurity. Okay, so whilst there have been a lot of focus on millennial and the economic turmoil they have witnessed in their lifetime, Gen X's, quote unquote, the lost generation, has been subjected to some significant upheaval. Okay, there was a crash of 1987. Oh my God, I remember that. Followed by the bursting, as I mentioned, dot-com bubble in 2000. Then they had the Great Recession of 2008 and 2008, 2009. And finally, again, the pandemic, right? So all of this causing many in this generation to be cycled in and out of the workforce numerous times, right? So as a smaller generation than millennial and boomers, Gen Xers have dealt with some serious issues, period, which had a lot of implication that resulted from the 3 points that I mentioned, the job situation, the debt situation, and the fact that they have to take care of their aging parents. So let's look at the job situation. Gen Xers now are nearing the midpoint of their career. Okay, so they are looking for job and financial stability from their employers, right? So as boomers retire, this generation is looking for promotion at the peak moment of their careers. They are often overlooked for promotion, right, for younger workers. And although they possess much of the same tech savvy as millennials, they are often regarded as being less knowledgeable than the younger generation, right? So as more Gen Xers are overlooked for top promotions, the more frustrated they become. So having learned from generations before, their work ethic is based in company loyalty and doing things for the betterment of the team, right? But this loyalty leaves them conflicted when promotion after promotion passes them by. So a nonprofit organization called Generation conducted a survey, and the survey revealed that Gen X workers aged 45 and older are bearing the brunt of a global unemployment crisis as the pandemic adds to existing challenges for older workers. They also noted that rapid digital adoption during the pandemic has accelerated the automation of jobs and worsened underlying age discrimination, right? Making it harder for mid-career workers to secure jobs. So the survey concluded, I should say, that entry-level and intermediate workers between 45 and 60 face increased barriers due to biases among hiring managers, as well as reluctance among workers to learn new skills. Okay, and needless to tell you, to this is added the gender gap. So the pressure is on. So now that we talk about the job situation, let's look at GenX's caregiving responsibilities. And this tend to affect Gen X women in particular, right? They are going through a midlife crisis currently because they have to juggle life. They have to juggle work. They have to juggle home obligations, and they have to take care of their aging parents and their young children. So according to a survey by New York Life, 34% of Gen Xers have been provided care for an aging parent during the pandemic, while also caring for children of their own, right? So because Gen X's caregivers are typically employed, this often impact their work, right? So things like needing to go in late, leaving early, or taking time off may require them to seek employment that prioritize flexibility over salary and robust benefit packages, right? Because you need your benefit, you need your pension, you need your medical, right? It also means that they may focus less on saving, or be forced to take on more debt, right? So that's the quid pro quo here. So caregiving can be especially burdensome to Gen Xs, in particular Gen X women, who are disproportionately more likely to be the one taking on this role, right? The role of caregiver. So the pandemic, even so, economists coined a new term to describe the high volume of women being forced to leave the workforce to become caregivers, calling it the C-session. Okay, SHE session. So these women are leaving work to care for their elderly relatives, and the potential cost of lost wages and Social Security benefits could average roughly about $324,000 during their lifetime. Okay, so that's what they're missing out. So in addition to all of that, they may find themselves having to fund their elderly parents' care, because as you may know, baby boomers were not very great savers, right? So they potentially have little to no pension, and now they have become a burden for their Gen X kids. So, and as you know, the cost of care is forever increasing. So now let's take a look at the third pressure point, too much debt, right? So that's the name of the game, right? And mortgages, credit cards, student loan are all common sources of debt for Generation X. In fact, this particular generation has more debt than any other across practically all credit products, right? Let's look at mortgages, for example. Mortgages are the most common form of debt for Gen Xers, with 56% of the generation possessing one, with a total debt over 30 trillion, that's a T, in the United States. Okay, so Gen X has the most mortgage debt of any generation. The other one that they have, a credit issue that they have, is a credit cards. Okay, some of them believe that this is part of their DNA, right? With an average of well over $7,000 in total credit card debt per person, this generation has the highest credit card debt and carry 54% of the credit card debt in the US, right? And as far as student loans are concerned, research by Experian, which is a credit entity, found that while student loan debt has climbed across all generations, Gen Xers have the highest average sum of about $45,000 per borrower. That's a lot of money. So finally, as the sayings go, they are robbing Paul to pay Peter, right? And in doing that, they have jeopardized their retirement security. So this is confirmed by a recent survey that I mentioned to you, conducted by Experian, which stated that 44% of Generation X respondents expressed doubt about their ability to save enough for their retirement. Not a pretty picture for them. But, there's a silver lining somewhere. Let's look at the third and last point for today's show, which is their attitude towards money. So while Gen Xers saw a lot going up, right? They cannot disregard, this cannot be disregarded due to their huge purchasing power, okay? They are currently in the prime earning years of their lives, and they account for 31%, as I mentioned to you, of the total US revenue, even though they only represent only 25% of the population, right? So according to a survey or research done by Pew, P-E-W, they are well known for their surveys all around, Gen Xers earn far more than their boomer parents, yet they own less than a third of their wealth. Okay, this is largely due to the increased debt level, clearly, that they encountered as a result of an expansion in education and housing cost, I guess. So they even show in that research paper that between 1977 and 1997, the typical amount owed on a student loan increased from $2,000 to $15,000. Okay, so this was like many, many months ago. So just imagine what it is now. Meanwhile, Gen X's hold 54% of the credit card debt. So they earn a lot of money because they have those who get a chance to get a job, they got a great job, but they are plagued with debts, right? So the other significant constraint on Gen X wealth was, mainly them, but it was for everybody, the subprime crisis, the major, how I called it, the 2008-2009 recession. Okay, this was a financial crisis, which wiped out roughly half of their investment and retirement portfolio, right? And given all these points, combined with the fact that Gen Xers are expected to live far longer than the boomer generation, it seemed likely that most will continue to work well into their golden years out of necessity, right? So to make matters worse, many Gen Xers are also facing another decade of stunt career and wage progression. And I'm looking at 2015 to 2025. Since the 2008 crisis is keeping boomers in the labor market longer. Okay, so all while ambitious millennials are leapfrogging ahead of the Gen Xers in position of power. So they are in the middle there. The baby boomers, because of the crisis in 2008, 2009, lost their shirt, so they're working longer. And of course, the millennials are coming up. They're going up. They're adults, so they're going to leapfrog right over the Gen Xers that are smack in the middle. So the faint silver lining Gen Xers can look forward to is that, unlike the boomers who are retiring less than a decade after the financial crisis crippled their retirement fund, these Gen Xers still have at least 20 to 40 years of extended wage earning potential to rebuild their retirement fund and deleverage their debt. So moreover, once a boomer finally do leave the workforce, Gen Xs will become the top dogs, right? Enjoying a level of job security for decades that the millennial and centennial workforce behind them can only dream of. So all is not too bad for the Gen Xs. And it's important for me to do those kind of research because they represent a great deal of my niche market, my target market. So I have to understand what they're going through in order to be able to serve them accordingly. So I'm going to stop here for today. And as I refer a lot to surveys and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to summing up, and I will talk. And today, basically, we talked about the Gen X's money habits, and we focus on who they are, their main financial pressures, and we identify, the job problem, the debt problem, and the caregiving problem that they have, and their total attitude towards money, as a result of the hand that they were dealt with. So I am going to leave you with these last thoughts. So while they live, and they being the Gen Xers, while they live through the energy crisis, right, the Chernobyl disaster, the Challenger disaster as well, I forgot that, 9/11, and other significant event, and watch the rise of MTV, PC, video games, cable TV, the internet, email, Gen Xers will be the first US generation to do worse financially than their parent. Okay, living through 2 recessions and an era of rising divorce rates have severely damaged their lifelong income potential, not to mention their retirement savings, but they still have years to come, so they'll catch up. However, even with all of these odd stacks against them, betting against them would be foolish, okay? Over the next decade, they will take advantage of their fleeting demographics advantages in a way that will permanently alter the generational balance of power. So do not ignore them. So as you know, I like to end the show with a quote. And today's quote is from a chap called Brett Morgan, Morgen, and it reads, as a Generation X, or whatever we were called, we were not being nurtured. We did not have Obama. We did not have Bill Clinton. We didn't have any politician that could look up, that you could look up to, nor did we have parents. So that is something that he said, and clearly, Mr. Morgan is an American film director who was born in 1968, then a Gen Xer. So let me share my contact information before I forget. You can reach me by sending me an email at mj@mariejocesar.com, or by sending me a private message via Messenger. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. Okay. And for more information about how to achieve financial wellness from the inside out and live a purposeful life with the money you have, join me next week, Thursday, at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Atlantic Time for my Bermudian peeps, and 10 a.m. Friday, Brisbane, Australia time for my Australian friends. Thank you for being here today on the Merging Life and Money Show. I am your host, Marie-Jo César. I will be back again next week. Until then, continue merging life and money. Bye for now.